Okay, let's look at some more review problems here. I'm not gonna look at 44 or 45. I did most of those in class for people, so let's start at 46. We'll look at this one first. They're all pretty much the same. Okay, this is a rational equation because there's fractions involved, and that means that there could be some things that could be extraneous that wouldn't work out. In this example, y cannot be 0 because if y was 0, it would put 0 in the downstairs of the denominator and two fractions here. So our strategy is going to be to clear out all these fractions. So to get rid of the 2, we'll multiply by 2. To get rid of the 9y, we'll multiply by 9y, which leaves me with 18y is what I think I'm going to multiply by. Let's make sure that gets rid of everything. It will get rid of the 9, and it will get rid of the 6y because 18 will get rid of the 6. So you multiply by all the pieces. And remember, when you multiply, you divide by what's on bottom and you multiply by what's on top. So 18y divided by 2 is 9y times 1 is just 9y minus 18y divided by 9y is 2, but you have to take the 2 times the 7, which is 14. And that equals 18y divided by 9 is 2. But you have to 2y, excuse me, but you have to take the 2y times the 4. So that's 8y. 18y divided by 6y is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. And you just solve it from here. I'll add 14 to both sides. And I'll subtract 8y from both sides. And I get y equals, it looks like 11. Okay, how about this one? To clear out everything, I'm going to have to multiply by the x plus 5 and the x. So I'm going to multiply by an x and an x plus 5. That will leave me with an x for the first guy, but I'll have to take that times 2. So 2x equals, the x's will cancel here, and I'm left with a 4 times an x plus 5. If I get the answer of 0 or -5, I know it's extraneous because x cannot equal -5 and x cannot equal 0 in those two fractions. So clear up. 2x is 4x plus 20 minus 4x, and that is -2x equals 20. Divide by -2, and x equals -10. There was one very similar to this in the notes, so we'll skip that one. All right, how about this one? This is a radical equation, which means you're going to have to isolate the radical. And we'll do that by adding 6 to both sides. And you get the square root of y plus 3 equals 7. After the root is isolated, you can square both sides to get rid of it. And you'll get y plus 3 equals 49. Subtract 3 from both sides and you get 46. You do have to check all these to make sure they work. 46 plus 3 is the square root of 49. Minus 6. Does that equal 1? 7 minus 6, that does equal 1. So 46 is my answer. Okay, these are the ones that are tricky. These are pretty hard. So remember, you have to get rid of one at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract the square root of x plus 3 from both sides. And then I'm going to have to do some difficult fact foiling. So I'll have the square root of x minus 12 is 5 minus the square root of x plus 3. So we'll square both sides to get rid of the first radical, but we'll have to be very careful when we FOIL the second side. So that's x minus 12 equals. This is the same thing as 5 minus the square root of x plus 3 times 5 minus the square root of x plus 3. So 5 times 5 is 25. And then I get a minus 5 x root 3 and another minus 5. So it's minus 10 square root of x plus 3. And then you'll get a plus at the end. The square roots will cancel and it will just be x plus 3. So this gives me 25 and 3, which is 28, plus the x minus 10 square root of x plus 3. This is the hardest part right here. You'll just have to double distribute. And you have the minus 5 and the minus 5, which is where the minus 10 came from. Now we'll have to isolate this radical by subtracting 28 and subtracting x, which is nice because that dropped out. So that's -40 equals -10 square root of x plus 3. They're being multiplied, so you divide by negative 10 to clear that up, and you get 4 equals the square root of x plus 3. Square both sides, and you get 16 equals x plus 3. And you subtract 3, and you get 13 as your answer. Double check. 13 minus 12 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 13 plus 3 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 1 plus 4 does equal 5. So my answer is 13. All right, how about these guys? So you have all variables here, and these aren't hard, and I'm pretty confident these will be on the test, so please pay attention. We need to get r by itself, but in order to get r by itself, you need to get it from out of the downstairs. It has to be on the top level. So the first thing we're going to do is square both sides. And you get L squared equals 2 over RW. Well, I'm getting closer to getting R by itself, but it's still in the downstairs. So we're going to multiply both sides by RW. And now I get RW, L squared equals 2. To get R by itself, I'll divide both sides by WL squared, and now it's all by itself. So R equals 2 over WL squared. And I'm not going to type that in, but that's the correct answer. This next one might be on the test as well. On this one, you're going to get S by itself, which means we need to get it from the denominator into the top spot. So what you're going to have to do here is you're going to have to clear out those fractions. And we'll do that by multiplying everything by S times T times D, which is, yes, an STD, which is strange. So the S's will cancel, and you're just left with TD, plus the T's will cancel, you're left with an ST, and the D will cancel, and you're left with an ST. Well, I'm trying to get S by itself, but they're in two places, so we at least need to get them on the same side. So you will get TD is ST minus SD. And the only way we can get the two to become just the one is to pull out a GCF. So we're going to pull out a GCF of S, and that's left with T minus D. Then you can divide both sides by T minus D, and that will be your answer. So your answer is going to be T times D over T minus D. And you will have to show work on that problem. Okay, this one is pretty easy like the last one, just square both sides. We've seen some that looked like this. Same thing, square both sides. Let's go ahead and try this one because I skipped a couple. The square root of 5 minus x equals 15. Square both sides, and you get 5 minus x equals, well, what is 15 times 15? That's 225. So you subtract 5, and that gives you negative x is 220. Divide by negative 1, and x is negative 220. Let's check that out. Plug it in. 5 minus negative 220 is 5 plus 220. So that is the square root of 225, which is 15. So that is the answer. Spinning wheel here. Okay. Did I skip one? No, it's the same type of problem. Okay, how about these? Okay, this is an absolute value equation. So what could be in there that has a distance of 6 from 0? And there's two numbers that could be in there, the absolute value of 6 or negative 6. And what's going to happen here is they're going to ask you a whole bunch of problems that look very similar right in a row. And then you're going to get in the habit of writing 6, negative 6, or 5, negative 5 over and over again. And then you're going to get some bad habits. So be careful because they're not all going to work out that way. This one will be very similar, as will this one. What happens here? The absolute value of x is negative 14.3. That means that some number's distance from 0 is negative. That can't happen. There's no negative distance. So because there's no negative distance, that means this particular problem does not have a solution. Okay, What happens here? Well, what could be inside those brackets to make that true? Well, it could be 45 or it could be negative 45. So 5x could be 45 or 5x could be negative 45. And when you divide both sides by 5, you get x equals 9 or x equals negative 9. So once again, you get the opposites, but this is not going to hold true for that much longer. Okay, what about this one? This is a less than sign. So with absolute value inequalities, you need to remember that if it's a less than, it's an and great or than. Those are the things you need to remember. So this is a less than, so it is an and. So what are the two numbers that could be in there? 7 and negative 7. That means that on a number line, small number on the left, big number on the right, open parentheses because it's not equal, and you make your graph look like a sandwich. So the graph is going to look like this. When you type it in, it's going to have parentheses because the less than sign, you just put the small number first and then the big number second. What one is the right graph? We just said it was the one that went from negative 7 to 7 with the parentheses, not the brackets. Okay, this particular one is a greater than. So when you solve this one, the two things that could be inside there are 2.3 and negative 2.3, but it's a greater than sign. So you put the small one over here and the big one over here. This time it is equal, so you get brackets, but it's an or graph, which means it looks like oars of a boat. So which one of these has the boat in the middle is this guy, because that's where you would put the boat, right there at D. And you find the correct graph with the one with the brackets and going on the outs, and that will be choice D. Okay, so that's very similar. How about ones where you have to do a little bit math? So how about this guy? This is an absolute value equation, okay? So it's not a greater than or less than, it's just an equation. What two numbers could be in there that makes that true? 11 and negative 11. So x plus 2 could equal 11, or x plus 2 could equal negative 11. And this is what I was talking about. They're not all going to be opposites, and this one is not. This is x equals 9 and x equals negative 13. Strangely, there was a whole bunch in a row on this review that worked out that way, and that's generally not the case. Okay, same thing here, 6 and negative 6, and then solve from there. All right, here's a less than sign. If it's a less than, it's going to be an and. You pretend that it's an equal sign to solve it. So you put 1 and negative 1 inside there to get your boundary points. So x plus 2 equals 1, or x plus 2 equals negative 1. When you solve it up, you get x equals negative 1, or x equals negative 3. You put your small number on the left and your big number on the right. It's an and it's going to be open circles, and it's going to be shaded like a sandwich in the middle. So what is the solution set? Well, it's going to be parentheses because they're not equals, and you put the small number first and the big number second. Sometimes it's easier to find the graph first. On your test, you'll be able to do that. Which one of those looks like a sandwich with the parentheses? That was C. I don't know if you can see it. I'll erase my work. There it is at the C. Okay, and the last one is similar, except it's a greater than, so it will be like the oars of a boat. And that's it.